Hello, girls and guys. Welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I will be teaching this session of IELTS for you. Just before we get going here, I want to make sure that you can hear me okay, and you can see the board okay. You probably don't see me yet, but you will in a moment. All right. Hi, Rakana. There's one of our sponsors. Nice to see you in today's class. Hello, everyone. Safa, Fernandan, and yeah, if you could just tell me if you can hear me okay. Hi, Baljit. Good to see you in class as well. Awesome, girls and guys. If you'd let me know that you can hear me and see the board behind me, that would be great. Awesome. Thank you, Mohammed. Appreciate that. By the way, those people with the green names are our sponsors, and thank you to our sponsors for supporting us, and that helps us to create these lessons and, of course, help you to pass the IELTS exam. So, good to see you. Okay, today we're doing a reading example with a little bit of strategy and some comprehension practice. The materials, as usual, they're coming from our websites. We have our own original IELTS exams. They're very, very similar to the real exam. Same level of difficulty, same structure, and so on. If you're studying for academic IELTS, definitely check us out at aehelp.com for academic IELTS materials. And for general IELTS materials, check us out at gieltshelp.com. Okay, make sure you know which IELTS you need to do. I've seen students mess up on that. Today is the 25th, Mohammed. Thank you for that slight correction there. There you go. I'm living in the past now. I'm living in today. All right. So just a quick note to our sponsors. We shifted tomorrow's sponsor-only class to Sunday. So Sunday at 13 o'clock GMAT time or 15 o'clock Central European time, we'll have a sponsor chat-only class for the task 2 a request that one of the students had. I believe it was you, Mohammed, that asked us for that. The task 2 topic is do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages type of essay. So we'll do that for our sponsors on Sunday, okay? And then our regular class will be 90 minutes after. All right, girls and guys. So again, don't worry about this part here. I'm going to erase that. That's old news. If you are interested in checking out how you would do in the IELTS speaking section, definitely send me an email to my email address, adrian@aehelp.com, and then I can tell you about our options for practice Skype speaking interviews. Okay, girls and guys, so talking about reading. Now, reading kind of has 2 parts, and I think a lot of students don't realize this, that when you're studying reading, then you need to think about it in 2 ways. Anybody know what are the 2 elements of reading that you need to improve to be a better reader? So how do you become a better reader? What do you need to learn for your reading to become a better reader? What 2 elements? Anybody know that? This is academic reading, but it works for general reading as well. Okay, Mohammed, yeah, you absolutely have to become an active reader, right? That's one part of reading. I'll say that in a different way. Skimming and scanning arcana is absolutely not a good idea for IELTS, especially if you want to get a score over 6.5. It doesn't work. There's too much paraphrasing, and the questions are made in a way that scanning and skimming do not work, so don't do that. Visualizing is an important part of one of the elements. The 2 elements of reading, when you learn to become a better reader, the first one, of course, it doesn't matter, there's no order here, but we can say it's fluency, so how fast you read. Okay, and the second element is comprehension. How much you understand. Okay, So when students practice their reading, they really need to realize that you have to break that into two parts. One is fluency, reading faster, and then the other one is comprehension, actually understanding how much you read. And with comprehension, of course, there's active reading, there's visualization, there's paraphrasing, and some other techniques, okay? Now, what a lot of students do is they try to learn both together, okay? So what a lot of students are doing is that they're trying to increase their fluency and their comprehension at the same time. Let me just correct that. Visualization. There we go. So that's not a good idea, okay? You shouldn't try to improve your fluency and your comprehension at the same time. That should be a final step. You should work on fluency and you should work on comprehension separately. And then when you are getting better at each one, combine the two and then you'll be a great reader, okay? So of course, on the IELTS, you have 20 minutes for each passage. You should spend no more than about 10 minutes reading the passage, and you do need to read it. As I mentioned, skimming and scanning are not good, okay? So remember, practice these skills separately and then combine them. It's much, much more effective than doing both together. Okay. So here we go. Let's do a little bit of this. We are looking at our test number 3. This is taken from our first exam book. And I'm going to play the audio for this reading. So this is just a little bit of fluency practice, okay? Don't worry about understanding the text. Just try to read as fast as this native British English speaker. So I'm going to play a little bit of audio with a native British English speaker who reads this. Read at the same speed and read aloud, okay? When you're practicing fluency, you should read aloud so you can hear yourself. Is everybody ready to go? Ready to read a little bit? Again, don't worry about understanding the text. Don't worry about the questions. Just worry about reading at the same speed as this person, all right? So I'm logging into our academic website here. As soon as I get the right password for this demo. All right. As some of you know, we have audio CDs for all the reading sections. One of the reasons being is that you can practice your fluency this way and your pronunciation as well. So this is coming out of CD 3, track number 5. Okay, girls and guys, so again, read with the same speed as this reader. Read aloud, okay?
Tristan de Cunha, an island of remote curiosity. Tristan de Cunha is an island in the South Pacific Ocean, formed by volcanic activity and part of the British Overseas Territory, called Saint Helena, Ascension, and Tristan de Cunha. Tristan de Cunha is generally considered to be the most remote inhabited place on Earth. Because of its extreme isolation and small population, Tristan de Cunha is a fascinating experiment in sociology and genetics. The island was first discovered in 1506 by a Portuguese explorer named Tristan de Cunha, who named the island after himself. The name of the island was later anglicised by the inhabitants into Tristan de Cunha. In 1816, the United Kingdom annexed the island, taking control of it. They used it as a marine military base for a number of decades in the 19th century, before it fell into disuse after the construction of the Suez Canal. The Second World War, however, brought renewed purpose to the island. It was used as a top-secret British naval station, codenamed HMS Atlantic Isle. The purpose of the station was to monitor the waters for German U-boats. According to a recent census, the island has a population of just 263 people, who mainly reside in the settlement known as Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. It is thought that the residents of the island descend from just 15 ancestors, of which 8 were male and 7 were female. Because the reproduction pool is so small, the residents of the island suffer from a number of medical disorders. There is rampant asthma on the island, which is thought to be a result of the known fact that 3 of the original founders of the island suffered from asthma. Based on the endemic asthma afflicting inhabitants of the island today, it is thought that there is a genetic underpinning for the condition. Further evidence comes from islanders commonly suffering from glaucoma, a degenerative eye condition which, left untreated, can result in blindness. There are just 8 surnames among the 263 residents of Tristan de Cunha, corresponding roughly to the 8 original male ancestors. Since there is almost no emigration to the island, the surnames are kept intact for many generations. Education on the island is very limited. Children only attend school until the age of 15, with the option of taking the British Standardised Test for secondary school graduates once they have completed schooling. As a consequence of the low quality of education, standardised test scores are generally very poor. Another indication of the island's remoteness and relative lack of contact with the outside world is that the English spoken amongst its natives is very different from that spoken of the rest of the world. Arguably, one of the most interesting facts about Tristan de Cunha was that until the aftermath of the Second World War, the only currency in place was the potato. For example, the newspaper, the Tristan Times, could be purchased for 4 big potatoes. Today, Tristan de Cunha uses the British pound as its currency, which is odd because neighbouring Saint Helena, 2,173 kilometres away, of which Tristan de Cunha shares its status as a British overseas territory, uses the Saint Helena pound and not the British pound. Since Tristan de Cunha was formed by volcanic activity and the volcano which formed it is still active, the inhabitants of the island live in constant danger of volcanic eruption. The last such eruption occurred as recently as 1961, when all of the islanders had to be evacuated to England. While some communities around the world participate in fire, earthquake or tornado drills, the residents of Tristan de Cunha participate in evacuation drills, where they practice the protocol for evacuation of the island in case of volcanic eruption. The Tristan economy is built mainly upon farming. All land is owned by the community. That is to say, there is no individual land ownership. Another significant part of the economy is the exportation of crayfish and lobster, mainly to Japan and the United States. A fire that occurred in 2008 greatly affected both the domestic and export economies. Tristanians are fiercely proud and independent people. Even when given the choice to stay in England after exile due to the volcanic eruption, almost every resident returned to the island.
Okay, so that is a good speed to be able to read that passage. If you're wondering how much time that is, anybody guess how much time that is to read that passage? Anybody have an idea of how long that native British English speaker took to read that passage? Yeah, very good. Just over 5 minutes. It was actually 5 minutes and 40 seconds or 49 seconds, so a little bit closer to 6 minutes, okay? If you can read the passage in 6 minutes like that and understand what you're reading, you'll have no problem getting a nice high score in IELTS. Even if you read a little bit slower, it's fine. If you take 8 or 9 minutes, it's fine. But of course, the second part of that is that you need to understand what you read, okay? Shiji, you're very welcome. I saw that email that you got some great scores on that IELTS exam, so that's awesome. Okay, understanding is the problem, Mohammed, and that's why we're going to talk about understanding. So comprehension practice, okay? Okay, read each paragraph. This is very simple. And ask what, why, how. That's the key information, okay? It's the same in your task 2 essay when you write a body paragraph. What is your topic sentence? Why is your explanation? How is usually your example? And then you have a connecting sentence. Now, IELTS authors are also very good at writing, and they use the standard essay format in English. So most of the paragraphs will be composed in that way. They'll have a topic sentence, explanation, example, and that is the what, why, how. So read each paragraph and ask what, why, how. At home, write your answers down on paper. Okay, now let's do this with this reading. Okay, so let's jump back here. Let's go through it together. Let's go through a few paragraphs and do this what, why, how practice. Okay, so Tristan de Cunha, an island of remote curiosity. Okay, so Tristan de Cunha is the name of the island, of course. Everybody understand the word remote? Everybody understand what remote means in this case? And I'm not talking about your television controller. That's not what we're talking about here. Far away is kind of a good way to think about it. Countryside would be a remote place. Not too many things around it. Remote means that it's isolated or secluded, okay? It's lonely. Yeah. So remote, just a little vocab here. Remote means secluded is another way to say it. It's almost a perfect synonym. Isolated. Okay? So not a lot of things around it. It's lonely, as one of you said. It's good. Okay, so that's important. Hopefully you understand that. Let's read this first paragraph and let's ask and answer what, why, how for that first paragraph. All right, so read with me again together. Now your goal here is comprehension, okay? So let's try to comprehend what we're reading. Tristan de Cunha is an island in the South Atlantic Ocean. Correction there. Tristan de Cunha is an island in the South Atlantic Ocean formed by volcanic activity and part of the British overseas territory called Saint Helena, Ascension, Tristan de Cunha. Tristan de Cunha is generally considered to be the most remote inhabited place on Earth. Because of its extreme isolation and its small population, Tristan de Cunha is a fascinating experiment in sociology and genetics. Okay, so first question, and this is, of course, you don't have to write this down at home. This is just for teaching you right now. What is this about? What is this paragraph about? So, girls and guys, give me a full sentence answer here. What is this about? Yeah, Tristan de Cunha, the island, right? Okay, next question. Why is this island discussed? So why is this island discussed? What's the answer there? Okay, moving through this first paragraph quite quickly, just because it's a fairly simple one, so I want to talk about it. Yeah, because it's remote. How remote is it? Can you be a little bit more specific? Because it is the most remote place on Earth would be an even better answer. Okay, then the next question here. Anybody know what that question is? So sometimes when students are doing this, they don't have too much difficulty with the answers, but they do have difficulty with the questions. So what is a good question for the how? Here. How is it formed? Might be okay. There's a better question, Vandana. So there is a better question that you could be asking here instead of how is it formed. I wouldn't do it that way. I'll give you a hint. Try to have the questions connect to each other. So the why is kind of a follow-up question to the what. So what kind of a follow-up question is good for the why? Yeah, why? How is it so remote? Exactly, Dinesh, Aisha. That's a good way to say it. How is it so remote? Okay, what's the answer to that from this paragraph? How is it so remote? Don't even worry about the sociology and the genetics. That's another why question. Why is it interesting? Okay? How is it so remote? Well, if you're having difficulty, take a peek back at the paragraph. How is it so remote? And you said it. Yeah, and this is an important one. And sorry, girls and guys, this is a little bit of a mistake here in the information. If you check your map, you'll find it not in the Pacific, but the Atlantic Ocean. Okay? It is a small island in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean formed by volcanic activity. Okay, so that's how it's remote. Now, you can ask more questions. So when you're doing this at home, you can say, why is it interesting? Why are we talking more about this? Interesting study, you could add that to this one. Okay, if you want to be more detailed, and the more detail you can remember, the better it is. So also, it is interesting for sociology and genetics, or genetic study. Okay. So you should have these answers. Again, try to answer in full sentences. All right, let's jump to the next paragraph. So paragraph 2. Let's do a couple more, and then we'll actually do the questions and answers and all that jazz. All right, so again, read this together with me. Now focus on understanding the what, the why, and the how. In body paragraphs, when you're in a reading passage, the what is usually at the top in the topic sentence. The why is usually somewhere in the middle, and the how is usually near the end. The only place where that could be a lot different is in the introductory paragraph and the conclusion. So those are usually the most tricky ones to get the information. Okay, read together with me. So the island was first discovered in 1506 by a Portuguese explorer named Tristan de Cunha, who named the island after himself. The name of the island was later anglicized by the inhabitants into Tristan de Cunha. In 1816, the United Kingdom annexed the island, taking control of it. They used it as a marine military base for a number of decades in the 19th century, before it fell into disuse after the construction of the Suez Canal. The Second World War, however, brought renewed purpose to the island. It was used as a top-secret British naval station, codenamed HMS Atlantic Isle. The purpose of the station was to monitor the waters for German U-boats. Okay, so let's jump back here. What is this paragraph about? Girls and guys, what's the answer there? What's that second paragraph about? Nope, I don't think it's about who discovered it. The explorers to the island, that's a better answer, Safa. The evolution of the island is better yet. Jeffrey, you have the better answer so far. The history of the island. Or we could say the known history. That's right. Absolutely. What's the question? What's the why question? Yeah, so it's the known history of the island, the recent history of the island. Absolutely. What's a good question? Why was it named? How was it named would be a better one there, Vandana. I wouldn't say that. Again, think about connecting it to the what question. So what is the paragraph about? The known history of the island. What would be the best question here? This is, again, like I say, with this kind of practice, often forming the questions is more difficult. Why is it important is a very good one, okay? So Syed, why is this important? Sure. Good. That's a good question. So why is it important, the known history of the island? To understand its name, yeah. What else? To understand its name, what else do we understand by the importance? So what it was used for, right? Its purpose, to understand its name, its purpose. And what else? Discovery, right? Okay, so why is it important? To understand its name, its purpose, its use, its discovery, its inhabitants even, or visitors. Okay. So clearly the next question then is, how was it named? How was it used? How was it visited? What was its purpose? And you're giving me now the answers to that, right? So answers are named after a Portuguese explorer, taken by the British, used in World War II. Okay, so that would be the how. Those are the details, okay? The details are usually going to answer that how question. Structure and critical thinking is very important, and you can go into even more detail, like Narendra is saying, that the British were using it to monitor U-boat activity, which are submarines. They're the first submarines that humans used in war. Okay, the dude named it after his own name, the Portuguese guy. Yep, the Second World War, to keep check on German U-boats. Careful, girls and guys, U-boats are not actual boats. They're not really ships. They're submarines, okay? All right, so you really need to practice this at home, not only to get correct answers, but to get the correct questions and the correct structure. When you do that effectively, your reading comprehension will be much better, and you'll see that your IELTS band scores will really start going up. All right, let's do one more paragraph. Let's do the third one, C here. Okay, so again, read with me, and then we'll go through the what, why, how together. Okay. According to a recent census, the island has a population of just 263 people who mainly reside in the settlement known as Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. It is thought that the residents of the island descend from just 15 ancestors, of which 8 were male and 7 were female. Because the reproduction pool is so small, the residents of the island suffer from a number of medical disorders. There's rampant asthma on the island, which is thought to be a result of the known fact that 3 of the original founders of the island suffered from asthma. Based on the endemic asthma afflicting inhabitants of the island today, it is thought that there is a genetic underpinning for the condition. Further evidence comes from islanders commonly suffering from glaucoma, a degenerative eye condition which, left untreated, can result in blindness. All right. So, what's my first question? And by the way, this first question, for some of you who watch these classes regularly, will realize it's very important for list of headings type questions, right? So list of headings type question. Underpinning means the cause, Baljat. So Baljat's saying, what does the word underpinning mean? It means pin under, so it's the cause. Underpinning is a synonym for cause. Yeah, Aisha, that's right. So what is the paragraph about? Keep it simple, right? It's the topic. That's the easy question. That's the one where the answer can be trickier, but your question's almost always the same. What is the paragraph about? So what is this paragraph about? I would keep it a little bit more general about the inhabitants and the population. So those of you who are answering, it is about the inhabitants, the population of the island. That's a good answer. Okay, keep your first answer simple so that you can connect the next answers clearly and quickly. Now, I'd add a little bit more to it, the inhabitants of the island and their origins. Okay. Next question. What's a good question here? And this is sometimes a very similar type of question. So what's my next question, girls and guys? Don't get into details. You don't want to just jump around with your ideas to details and explanations and examples, because that's not an organized, structured way to have your reading comprehension. You want to focus on the big picture and then going smaller and smaller and smaller, and only at the end identifying the details. Why do they suffer from disorders? Sure. Or even more generally asking, why is this discussed? Why does the author discuss this? Why do these inhabitants have certain health issues? Okay. Sure. What's the answer to that? Okay. So some of you who are thinking about this kind of a question, good on you. You're on the right track. What's the answer? Yeah, the reproductive pool is small, so try to answer these as full as possible. Jeffrey, you have the right start there. The reproductive pool is small, so genetic abnormalities persist through the generations. Okay? Now, if you're practicing this at home regularly, you're improving your vocabulary, you're improving your grammar, this is the level of answers that you should be giving. If you're going for a band score 8 or a band score 9, you want to reach this level of questions and answers, okay? Reproductive pool, if you're studying statistics or math, your pool is your total number or set of people or subjects or criteria. So that's your pool, like a swimming pool, and all of the pieces inside that you're observing. The reproductive is the sexual reproduction, so male-female connections here, okay? So what's my next question? So we have the what? The inhabitants of the island and their origin. Why does the author discuss it? Because they have a small reproductive pool and genetic abnormalities persist through generations. So it's interesting for genetics. I would ask this question in a very simple way. Yeah, how is the reproductive pool so small, Mohammed, is a good question. You can keep it even more simple than that. How do people's lives get affected, Sanjong? It's a good... Yeah, how did it happen? Exactly. That's the... Sanim, you have it right here, okay? So that's what you want to do, is keep it that simple. How did this happen? What's the answer? So how did this happen? Mahendra, you're almost right. You're a little bit off with your numbers, but you're close. There are 8 men and 7 women as ancestors. And some of them suffered from, there's 2 diseases that they're talking about. Asthma, yeah. And what was the other one? Glaucoma, that's right. Glaucoma is where the eye gets that gray. If you had pet dogs or something, you might have seen that, or very old people get it too, where you get this gray kind of mist in your retina, and then that can lead to blindness. All right, so how did this happen? Great. So again, when you're at home and you're practicing the reading section of the IELTS, separate your fluency, separate your comprehension practice. Practice your fluency, try to read as fast as you can or even faster. Don't worry about understanding what you read. Then, after you've done that a little bit, look at each paragraph, look at the what, why, how for each paragraph. Look at the paragraph, visualize the information, try to see it. So here you want to imagine this tiny little island in the middle of the ocean with a giant volcano. You've probably seen movies where there's these kinds of islands being shown with the natives, where there's about 120 people and they're farmers. And some of them are a little bit blind. Some of them have asthma, so they have difficulty breathing, okay? So you want to picture this in your mind's eye. All right, so I'm not going to go through all of them with you. I think you have the right idea. If you don't, just let me know. You can always send me an email, or you can review it on our websites at ahelp.com and glshelp.com with all the other great strategies there. Okay, let's have a look at the questions. So in the IELTS, if you're actually reading this passage, you want to look at the title. You want to visualize the title. Think about the what, why, how. You want to look at the questions, see if you can read them or not. If they have extra or false information, don't read them, right? So reading passage 1 has 7 paragraphs, A to G. Which paragraph contains the following information? Write the correct letter in boxes 1 to 5. Now, if you practice reading comprehension like I just showed you, you can actually get a lot of these without searching the passage. Should I read this type of question? So can I read this? Is it a good idea for me to review these questions before the passage? Here says yes. Mohammed says yes. Safa, yes. Baljit, definitely. Change your answer to a yes. This is all information that's in the passage. So you will find this information somewhere in the passage. It will help you to understand the passage. So it's a good idea to review it before the passage. The different types of money used on the island, exam results of Tristan's students, discussion of the original inhabitants of the island. Wow, we can probably answer that right now. The island as an armed forces outpost, geography of the island. Good. Here we have a match the following places with the facts about them. You can use each letter more than once if you so choose. Should I read this type of question? What do you girls and guys think? Is this a good one? This match the information to the right one? This one, I would definitely read because it's all in there, girls and guys. So all of this information is somewhere in the passage. These questions will all be somewhere in the passage. Don't read the answers to matching sentence endings. That's different. That's a different type of question. You will see all of this information somewhere in the passage, so you should read it. Took political control of the island in the 19th century. Uses its own currency, home to Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, origin of the name Tristan de Cunha. Islanders had to be evacuated here after a natural disaster, and then discovered the island. So this is a good one, okay? This is a good one to read. All of this information is in there. All right, complete each sentence with the correct ending, A to E below. Here I have 2 sentences, and then I have 5 choices. Should I read all this information? Mahendra Gardi is asking me why the options make us confused. Because the options can contain information that is not in the passage. And after you read the passage, you won't remember if you read it in the passage or if it's because you read it before. So, Baljit, you have the right idea. Only read the sentences. Don't read the endings because that's confusing. There's going to be 3 pieces of false and wrong information there. So don't read those. So just read what's in the passage. Because the number of people that move permanently to the island is so small, something. Due to its remoteness, the dialect of Tristanians is. All right. So here, just this, not the options. Okay, girls and guys, let's finish the remainder of this reading passage and then answer these questions. See how well you do. See how well you comprehend. So continuing on from paragraph D, please read nice and loud with me, okay? So use your mouth, use your tongue so you can hear yourself. It's a really important part of good reading practice. So here we go. Follow with me. There are just 8 surnames among the 263 residents of Tristan de Cunha, corresponding roughly to the 8 original male ancestors. Since there is almost no emigration to the island, the surnames are kept intact for many generations. Education on the island is very limited. Children only attend school until the age of 15, with the option of taking the British standardized test for secondary school graduates once they have completed schooling. As a consequence of the low quality of education, standardized test scores are generally very poor. Another indication of the island's remoteness and relative lack of contact with outside world is that the English spoken among its natives is very different from that spoken in the rest of the world. Arguably, one of the most interesting facts about Tristan de Cunha was that until the aftermath of the Second World War, the only currency in place was the potato. For example, the newspaper, the Tristan Times, could be purchased for 4 big potatoes. Today, Tristan de Cunha uses the British pound as its currency, which is odd because neighboring Saint Helena, 2,173 kilometers away, of which Tristan de Cunha shares its status as a British overseas territory, uses the Saint Helena pound and not the British pound. Since Tristan de Cunha was formed by volcanic activity and the volcano which formed it is still active, the inhabitants of the island live in constant danger of volcanic eruption. The last such eruption occurred as recently as 1961, when all of the islanders had to be evacuated to England. While some communities around the world participate in fire, earthquake, and tornado drills, the residents of Tristan de Cunha participate in evacuation drills, where they practice the protocol for evacuation of the island in case of volcanic eruption. The Tristan economy is built mainly upon farming. All land is owned by the community. That is to say, there's no individual land ownership. Another significant part of the economy is the exportation of crayfish and lobster, mainly to Japan and the United States. A fire that occurred in 2008 greatly affected both the domestic and export economies. Tristanians are a fiercely proud and independent people. Even when given the choice to stay in England after exile due to the volcanic eruption, almost every resident returned to the island. You should always read the paragraph before you read or before you answer the questions. So you should always read the passage before you answer the questions, okay? All right, let's answer these questions together. So here we go. The paragraph that contains the following information, A to G, okay, there's 7 paragraphs. The different type of money used on the island. Which paragraph did we read that in? Anybody? The different types of money Used. Well, that was about potatoes. I remember I read that near the end. I don't have to skim or scan the whole passage. I can just look at the last couple of ones there and see where it is. F, potato. There's the potato. Talking about the potato, the British pound, and so on, so I know that that one's F. Okay? When you have good reading comprehension, you don't need to skim and scan the passage back and forth and flip pages like a madman. I see students doing that in the IELTS, and it just drives me nuts because it's not right. So you can find it quickly and easily because you have a pretty good idea of where in the passage it is. Okay? It's right, Arcana. F it is. All right. Exam results of Tristan's students. I actually caught that just now looking for this one. Yeah, that's right, Mohammed E. That was the paragraph above. And when I referenced for this one, I saw the answer to that one, so I don't need to go back. Discussion of the original inhabitants of the island. Should be easy because we did what, why, how with that one. Yeah, I believe it was B, not C, with the genetics, but let's check. Careful. B was more about the history. This is the inhabitants, right? The 263 people right there. So that's going to be C. Okay, for those of you who are answering C, you're correct. Okay. So that one's C. The island as an armed forces outpost. So as an armed forces outpost, so being used for military. Where was that one? Could be B, yeah. U-boats, B, we talked about that. Critical thinking, that's the right answer. And again, if you're not 100% sure, but you have a good idea. So for this one, many of you said B, but maybe you weren't 100% sure. Don't just say, oh, I'm 80% sure it's B, and then go on. Because you probably have the paragraph that's maybe in the worst case scenario right beside it. Okay, so check it, all right? It's very quick to check when you have a good idea of pretty much where it is, okay? The only time you're in trouble is if you have no idea. The only time you're in trouble with these questions is if you're not practicing your comprehension. And for this one, for example, you think it's G, well, then you're going to be in trouble because it's going to take you some time to figure out that the information is in C, okay? All right, the geography of the island should be an easy one. A, right? It's the first one. It tells you. It's a volcanic island in the Pacific Ocean, which is wrong. It's the Atlantic Ocean, but that's the geography of the island. So it's F-E-C-B-A. Okay? So in this case, you didn't have to use any of these more than once. Okay? But sometimes you do, so be careful. You have to know the right answer, not guess the answer. Okay? All right, so match the following places with facts about them from the passage. This one, you shouldn't have to look at the passage. Again, if you have good reading skills and good comprehension in English or in your own language, you should be able to answer these kinds of questions at least 60%, 70% without looking at the passage. Took political control of the island in the 19th century. Saint Helena, Tristan de Cunha, United Kingdom, Portugal. Yeah, I believe it's United Kingdom. I'm not going to check that. I'm pretty sure it was. Uses its own currency. Number 7. And that's right, Baljeet. You can use each letter more than once. So uses its own currency. That's right, it was A, Saint Helena. It says Tristan de Cunha today uses the British pound, but interestingly, its neighbor, 2,000 something kilometers away, uses the Saint Helena pound. So A. Home to Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. Hopefully you got that one. That was very visual. Number 8. It was not the potato. What was it? Tristan de Cunha. That's right. It's pretty much the only city, right? It's where everybody lives. It's the town of Tristan de Cunha. It's called Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. So C, A, B so far. Origin of the name Tristan de Cunha. Where does it come from, Tristan de Cunha? Does it come from Tristan de Cunha? Does it come from Saint Helena, United Kingdom, or Portugal? Origin of the name Tristan de Cunha. It's D. It came from Portugal. It was the name of the man who discovered it from Portugal, right? Islanders had to be evacuated here after a natural disaster. Last one, number 10 at the bottom here. That's right, much, Zainal Abidin. It is C. Yeah, it was United Kingdom. It's a British colony now, so of course, if there's trouble, where do they go? They go to Britain. That's right, absolutely. So C, A, B, D, C should be the correct answers there. All right? Now, this is reading passage 1, girls and guys, so this is going to be the easiest one from the 3. Again, it's very visual, right? And has easier question types. Number 11, discovered the island. Which one of those would be the matching one for that last question, number 11? Where did the person come from? This should be easy. If you got number 9 correct, you should definitely get number 11 correct. Yeah, that's right, D. And again, write capital letters, girls and guys, so you don't make mistakes. That was D. It was the Portuguese captain that discovered the island with its inhabitants. So D is the correct answer. Yeah, Portugal. It's named after him. He's a Portuguese guy. He discovered the island. He gave it his name. So hopefully you got that from the beginning. All right, let's look at the last couple of questions. Complete each sentence with the correct ending, A to E below. Now, this question type, it's kind of similar to multiple choice. This is a type of multiple choice. So, Manisha, if you're still watching right now, you should recognize that this type of question is kind of like a multiple choice. I think, Baljit, maybe you were in that sponsors class as well with the multiple choice strategy. So this type of question, you want to use a very similar strategy as with multiple choice questions, okay? So the trick here is read the sentence or the question, quote unquote, because the number of people that move permanently to the island is so small, and then try to finish it. So try to finish with your own idea and see if you can find something that matches. Okay, so that's one of the good strategies for this kind of question. Finish this sentence by yourself, then check the answers. So girls and guys, can you try to, who are watching obviously with the passage as well, try to finish this sentence. Because the number of people that move permanently to the island is so small, what? What's a good ending for this sentence on your own? They're sick. Okay, yeah, they have some. I would be a little bit. The reproductive pool is small. Yeah, that's a good way to finish it. Baljit, absolutely. There are only 8 surnames. That's a good way to finish it. There's genetic problems. That's a good way to finish it. I would say it's an interesting place to study genetics is a good way to finish it. That would be one of mine. It's an interesting place to study genetics. Just give me 1 second. We'll check the answers, but I don't want to show you the answers yet. I want to go to number 13 and do that one as well. Due to its remoteness, the dialect of Tristanians is what? Can you finish number 13? So you gave me some great answers for number 12. Let's see if you can give me some good answers for number 13. If you're saying genetic disorders, sickness, all that, that's good. Due to its remoteness, the dialect of Tristanians is, I don't know, it's poor. Annabeth, that's a good answer. It's hard for the rest of the world to understand. Sure. I'm curious actually to hear it one day, see how it sounds. The dialect means the way that you speak a language. So there are many different Arabic dialects. There are many different Mandarin dialects. There are many different English, many different Spanish dialects, French dialects. So due to its remoteness, the dialect of Tristanians is, yeah, Baljot, very different, right? Very different. Okay, so is very different or is unique, okay, would be a good way, different from the rest of the world. Spider-nomatic, that's a good way. There's Manisha's different language. It's not it's English, so it's a different sounding language. Okay, let's see if we can find the matches. So, for number 12, okay, because the number of people that move permanently to the island is so small, last names remain the same for generations. Asthma is very rare, very different from other variations of English, continually developing, often confuses two outsiders. Which one of these is the best answer for 12? Okay, this one's definitely not, girls and guys, because it's very rare, right? That's not true. A. So all of you who are saying A are correct. Yeah. Last names remain the same for generations, okay? If it's not about, well, it's kind of about genetics because the genetics remain the same when the last names remain the same. Okay, and then due to its remoteness, the dialect of Tristanians is, so number 13, last names doesn't make sense. Asthma doesn't make sense. Very different from other variations of English. Continued developing. Often confuses outsiders. C, D, or E. What do you think? All of you who are answering C are correct. Okay? So A and C. All right? Those would be your correct answers there. If you have our books from our websites or if you're a sponsor and we've sent you our book, you can always check where these answers are coming from. We have the transcripts for these in the back of the book. So you can check that out. This is the one for Tristan de Cunha. And basically it's showing you that for question number 5, you find the answer here. For question 9 and 11, you find the answer here. So if you're not sure where those answers are coming from, go to the back of the book and then look at the bold text, and you will know that, okay, for question number 5, I should be looking at this part here, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick review. Practice your reading comprehension and your reading fluency separately, then put it together, okay? When you practice reading comprehension, look at each paragraph on its own. Ask and answer what, why, how. Use a paper and pencil to do this. Remember, skimming and scanning are not good strategies if you want to get a score over 6.57. And skimming and scanning is actually really bad because it will hurt your writing score. Okay? Anybody know why I just said that? Some of you might have just said, what did you just say? Writing score? So if you're doing skimming and scanning for the reading section, it will actually jeopardize or damage your writing score. Anybody know why? This is a last little kind of exciting or interesting piece of information. Anybody have an answer to that one? Why would skimming and scanning in the reading section hurt your writing score in the IELTS? Saeed says you won't know vocabulary, you'll lose your critical thinking, you'll forget words. Yeah, there's some truth to that, Saeed. Yeah, there is some truth to that. I'll give you the answer in a second if nobody can tell me why. And I'll show you something here. Let me see if I can grab a couple of pieces of paper here to show you. You lose focus. It takes a lot of time, absolutely. And also, you waste tons of energy. Tons of energy, tons of mental focus, and you get really confused. Just imagine that the reading section is 3 passages that are 20 minutes for each passage. So you have 1 hour. And many students take that whole hour. So I've seen students do this. That's what I'm telling you. So imagine that a student's sitting there for 1 hour, flipping like this. Question, answer, passage, question, answer. And you're doing that for a whole hour. Me, as a teacher of English, I would get really tired after doing that for an hour. And then, now your hour is done, your reading section's done, and boom, you have to have a good, clear, structured piece of information in your mind that you're going to write down for 2 different writing tasks. You've just been juggling information like crazy for a whole hour. And now suddenly you're asking your brain to organize information clearly, coherently, cohesively in a structured essay. That's pretty difficult to do. So I really suggest students not to use skimming and scanning, but use other strategies that are much more effective. Skimming and scanning, even for list of headings, Hardik, is not the best strategy. I've shown a couple of strategies that work much better, even for that kind of question. Okay, girls and guys, check out our websites, ahelp.com for academic IELTS, geltshelp.com for general IELTS. Tomorrow, the class will be much earlier. I have a busy afternoon tomorrow here in beautiful Hungary. So class will be at 10 a.m. Central European time. So 10 o'clock Central European time. If you can't make it, don't worry. It will be recorded so you can catch it on the YouTube channel later. Thank you, girls and guys, for watching today. I hope you got some useful information from this class. Again, you all have beautiful minds, beautiful brains. You're capable of a lot and then some. Make sure to practice. It makes perfect. It really does. Have a wonderful rest of your day and sweet dreams to all of you who are burning the midnight oil. Bye for now.